Hi, and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for Black Mirror Season 5, Episode 2, Smithereens. And this video is part of a series of videos where I review episodes of Black Mirror, so I'll have to start with a spoiler warning for the episode of Smithereens. Of course, Black Mirror is an anthology show, so every episode is independent of the other, so I won't really spoil any other episodes. So as long as you've seen the episode Smithereens, you will be safe from spoilers. Otherwise, this video will contain spoilers. So, this episode was pretty good. It was like the most exciting or sort of thriller episode of the season, which, you know, there are only 3 episodes in the season, but this was definitely that thriller genre aspect of it. And it seems to me like they were advertising this episode as the episode to watch this season. Kind of like with Season 4, they did that with USS Callister. Like, that was their big headliner. That was the episode to watch of the season. And I gotta say, it's actually my second favorite episode of the season. It wasn't my actual favorite of the episode. I think I enjoyed it. I thought it was a really suspenseful, engaging thriller episode. It was really well acted. The characters were really fleshed out, which I think was the most interesting aspect to it. But it didn't really wow me like a lot of episodes of Black Mirror do. It kind of, I wouldn't say it was one note, because as I said, it was actually really good. It was really character driven and really suspenseful. But there wasn't much behind it, if you know what I'm saying. It was the plot or the story sort of ideas and the morals of the stories, whatever, was pretty simplistic and out there. It reminded me a lot of the 3rd season episode Shut Up and Dance, in which it's pretty much set in present times. In fact, this episode, they went out of their way. It was the first episode of Black Mirror ever that actually put a timestamp on it. Maybe Bandersnatch did, but that's not an episode. But anyway, it put a timestamp, went out of its way to make sure that you knew that this was taking place in present times and not in the future. And so, yeah, Shut Up and Dance is another episode that was taking place in present times, and it was more about how technology affects life today, whereas most Black Mirror episodes present a speculative vision of the future of how technology may affect human life sometime in the future if we keep going the way we're going. But this episode in Shut Up and Dance is like, this is how technology could affect us here and now. And if you've seen my other videos on Season 3, I did not care for Shut Up and Dance. I didn't like that episode pretty much. It is one of my least favorite of the series. So I thought this one was much, much better. This was a much better version, in my opinion, of something that deals with how technology can affect us in the present day, modern times, in the here and now. And because I won't get into the issues I had with Shut Up and Dance, because it's supposed to be talking about Smithereens. But this episode, the characters and the situations felt more real. Whereas that episode, I just couldn't buy a lot of the stuff. But anyway, as I said, I'm not going to talk about that episode. And plus, the message was a lot clearer. Like, the characters came off a lot more clearer in this episode. And that's what I think is its strong point. You get a really strong handle on the main character who kidnaps an employee from Smithereens, which, of course, is an analogy to Twitter. And a lot of people are speculating, well, if it's not Twitter, it's called Smithereens, what do they call tweets? It can't be tweets because it's not Twitter, where they call them Smithers? Kind of Smithers. But anyway, so I think that's why they went out of their way to have that little timestamp to make it clear, set in 2018, because it's using different companies that you might easily just say, oh, this is set in the future, where this future company is. No, it's just an alternate sort of reality where instead of having Twitter, you have Smithers. And then, of course, the persona is the Facebook sort of surrogate that the woman that the main character had a one night stand with, that she was trying to break into her daughter who committed suicide, break into her account, persona accounts. That was sort of the Facebook surrogate. Although, they try to say that Black Mirror is like presenting one universe because there's tons of Easter eggs and references to other episodes and other things. But in the episode Striking Vipers, they actually mentioned Facebook. So if this is indeed one universe, then Facebook does exist in this universe. I don't know, maybe Persona is just like their competitor or whatever. Maybe in this universe Facebook doesn't have a monopoly on that type of website, and they have Persona as their competitor, but whatever. Anyway, I thought that was really interesting. I do like the way they built this character up. How at first you go back, I went back and watched this a second time, and I could see from the start of the episode, once I knew like what his motivation was and what was going on, everything like added up perfectly. Like it all made perfect sense. How he was talking about to the woman he met at the support group, saying, "Oh, I haven't talked. I'm not ready to tell my story," and that's because we know that he's waiting to talk to the Billy Bauer, the creator, head CEO. I don't know if he's the CEO, but he's like the head guy, owner, creator of Smithereens. So he's waiting to tell his story to him in particular. And also, of course, the way he's, sitting right outside the Smithereens headquarters, he's actually, because when he picks up the first woman who gets in the car, she asks, "Oh, that was fast." And he's like, "Oh, I just happened to have drop someone off in this area, so I happen to be here," which is bullshit because he's waiting there because he wants to pick up someone from Smithereens. And of course, when she says that she doesn't work there, you can see him visibly disappointed that he's fuck, and so that's why he doesn't kidnap her. So he's waiting for someone that works there to kidnap. And so when he gets to the other guy and he's asked if he works there, he says yes, so he does kidnap him. But then again, turns out that he's just an intern, and of course he gets pissed off. But you can see that he considers, during the whole thing, but then he realizes that he won't get another chance. He already set things in motion. There's no way he'll be able to try again, so he has to just make do with what he has. And as we've seen in this episode, an intern was actually enough. He was able to get what he wanted, which was to talk to Billy Bauer, just by having an intern. And I think I like the way the story unfolded with how the characters were slowly introduced when they became relevant, like the police came. And I love that we got a bit of the police woman who was in charge, but they didn't focus too much on her and the other police there. So I just like the way it slowly unfolded, and we learned it more about the characters as it went. And it's also had interesting characters like the CEO, Penelope Wu, who was in charge of Smithereens, and she was the one sort of dealing with it. I think it's really interesting. I'm not sure exactly what they're going for. I think it's to show how much more power social media has over society, that the Penelope Wu and the people at Smithereens were able to figure out a hell of a lot more about the guy and what was going on than the police were. Like they actually went out of their way to juxtapose where they show the other policewoman going and saying, doing research and finding out about him, but then Penelope Wu over in America, halfway across the world, able to find out a hell of a lot more in a shorter amount of time. And this is all going towards how powerful and how prevalent social media and stuff like that is in modern society. And I actually think that's true. I've actually seen programs that a lot of police are very inefficient in terms of digital media and digital information, aren't really trained or aware of that information, which is they kind of should be, because it's so important and so prevalent and everywhere in today's society. So I actually totally buy this, and I thought that was really interesting commentary too, that they knew a lot more of what was going on. You can see that the police woman who was in charge was getting a bit irritated. It's like, oh, well, you seem to know this, because she was starting to realize that these people in Silicon Valley were like able to find out a hell of a lot more than she was in a short amount of time. And that doesn't speak to her abilities as a policewoman or as an investigator. It speaks to the nature of the way society is set up and how it's not really we haven't really caught up to the digital age in a lot of departments, and a lot of areas of society is still further behind than what they should be. But of course, like, the main point of the episode is, as we find out, and I think this is a really great reveal when Chris tells his backstory of why he's doing what he's doing, and how, we hear throughout the episode, you get to sprinkle in that he got in a car crash where his wife died, and he's blamed it on the drunk driver. But you get the true story when he finally confesses. He finally gets to talk to Billy Bauer and says that it was his fault. They blamed it on the drunk driver, but he blames it on himself because he was looking at his Smithereen notices on his phone instead of paying attention to driving, and that's when the car crash happened. And I don't know, like, I have mixed feelings about this main, like, I love the backstory, like, seeing the car crash happen, that was an amazing moment, but I have mixed feelings about his motivation here, about sort of blaming it. And he talks to Billy Bauer about how addictive it is, and you see this is a motif throughout the episode, that he gets triggered when he sees that everyone's on their phones, and he's constantly like ranting about, oh, you don't even look up, the sky could be purple for all you know, you should just have your eyes glued on the phones. And that was, I think, maybe a bit too on the nose and a bit too obvious theme of the episode. They even had that song, I can't keep my eyes off of you, like, playing over and over again. That was, of course, because about everyone can't keep their eyes off of their phones and their devices. And then Billy Bauer, when confronted about it, says yes, they do that on purpose. They make it like crack, they make it addictive, and they make it so you constantly have to can't take your eyes away from your mobile device. I mean, I kind of get that. I mean, this is a common thing in modern society. I do get annoyed from time to time if I go out and with people and they're just sitting there on their phones and not actually talking or whatever. I mean, that is annoying. People should engage more instead of being glued to their phones. But I don't know. I think this episode takes it a bit too far. Like, it's crack, like they're addicted and they can't. I don't know. I don't have that relationship with it. It's not crack. I just do it because there's nothing else to do. And I think most people are like that, honestly. I mean, maybe there's a few people who can't, who don't engage in and just shut off and just. But to say that the phone is like crack is like, I don't know. I think that's taking that too far. And honestly, I don't really get. I think Chris is basically crazy. I mean, I think trying to give him rational motivation is a bit out there, because especially that scene when he was first kidnapping the intern and he was like ranting. He's like, you're on your phone, you're always on your fucking blah, 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 blah. And the actor did an amazing job, by the way. But that, to me, was like, made it clear that this guy is not playing with a full deck of cards. So that makes his motivation a bit dubious, in my opinion, that he's just a bit checked out. And so that's why I don't really buy this thing. And I think his whole motivation of just wanting to talk to Billy Bauer, who of course is supposed to be like, the quadrillionaire tech whiz whatever, and I think Topher Grace did an amazing job playing this character, by the way. It was just really, felt really true, and it was almost a bit funny, I would say, the way he played him. I thought it was a really nice casting there. But anyway, his whole motivation of wanting to talk to Billy Bauer, and that's the whole reason why he kidnapped someone holding a gunpoint, had to stand off the police, just so he could tell his story to some, celebrity gazillionaire tech whiz. And Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess stuff does happen like that in real life, so that's probably what Charlie Brooker was basing it off of. But I just find that a bit silly, honestly, and that kind of diminishes my opinion of Chris as a character. As I said, he's that's part of the reason why I say he's checked out and not playing with a full deck of cards, because what I don't know. And he says specifically in the episode, I know it's my fault. I know it's my fault. It's my fault my wife died. But, and I'm thinking to myself, but nothing. I mean, I don't know. He's saying that he knows it's his fault, but it does seem a lot to me like he's blaming Smithereens for it, because why go out of his way to kidnap someone from the company just to talk to the CEO, just to tell him the story, even though the CEO says, I have no control over this, it's out of my hands, someone took the company away from him, and he's like, I don't give a shit. If you don't give a shit, why the fuck is that your huge motivation to tell the story to this guy who founded the company, sure, but has zero control in affecting it? And I would say even if he did have more control of the company than stated in the episode, it's more of a social, it's the way that society is going. It's a societal norm. It doesn't have to do with the specific company or the specific phone. It is the way our modern society, like it or not, is geared, and talking to one tech whiz, guy is not going to make a lick of a difference. So I don't really get why he had to tell his story specifically to him, and he didn't care about what he said in return. He's like, oh, I just want you to know why. I don't know. I think personally, even though he says repeatedly that he knows it's his fault, it still feels to me like he's trying to take the blame off himself a little bit, maybe not completely, maybe he knows he has some of the blame, but it seems to me he's not taking all the blame, because saying, oh, the phones are like crack. No one told him to look at his phone when he was driving. Most people will tell you not to. Now, this is, of course, a real-life problem. There are a lot of car crashes. I saw a statistic the other day. It's in the thousands of injuries that occur from car crashes that happen with people not paying attention, looking at their phones. But if it wasn't their phones, in the 80s and 90s, it was other things they would look at. They'd be drinking their soda, or they'd be, I don't know, talking on their big-ass 90s cell phone. I don't know. If it's not one thing, it's another. So it's just the way modern society is. So I just thought that part of the episode was a little bit weak and a little bit silly, in my opinion. But most of it I really liked. As I said, I did think the characters were so well drawn out, so well portrayed as well. And I like how when Billy Bauer did say, maybe there's one little thing. What can I do for you? Even if it's a little thing, and it's to get the password from that woman that he slept with. I mean, that was a nice touch. I did enjoy that. But let me tell you my main gripe with this episode, and that's the ending. When they had the ending and the guy in the car, Jaden, the hostage, tried to grab the gun from him, I don't know. First of all, I didn't buy that. Even though they try to excuse it by saying, well, he said that I can't remember, his uncle or someone killed himself, so he didn't want to see this guy kill himself. I mean, okay, sure, but I don't buy, he was terrified, he was, screaming, he was like, you're going to kill me, and all of a sudden, he has the strength to try to wrestle a gun away from this guy, even though he knows he's directly putting his life in danger, because there's tons of police with rifles aimed at them, and the gun could go off, and the guy, Chris could control the gun and kill him out of spite, or kill him by accident. So I don't really buy that. I thought that was a little bit silly. And when Chris was telling him, "Oh, go, just go," I was like, "Yes, please, just go." When it was struggling for a gun, I was like, "Oh God!" But that's not my gripe. My gripe is the fucking ending, because when they had the gun go off, the police woman said, take the shot, or you're clear to fire, you're authorized to fire, shot authorized, that's what she said. And you see the police person fire the sniper rifle, and then cuts to black, and then you see the reactions of everyone. And when that first happened, I was like, please, God, please tell me who got shot. Please don't end this episode with keeping it a mystery on who was shot. And sure enough, that's exactly what they did, and boy was I pissed off about that. Now, there's sometimes ambiguous endings can work, and it can work to let the audience sort of fill in the information with their imagination. There's a lot of specific cases I can give of movies and shows that do that I absolutely love, that I think really works. But there's other times where I think you really shouldn't do that. And sometimes when the show or a movie does do that when they shouldn't, it pisses me the hell off. And this, I would say, is one of those cases that actually makes the episode worse by not knowing who it was that got shot. Now, I've seen some theories and speculation saying, oh, well, clearly it was Chris that got shot. Okay, if that was so clear, then why didn't they fucking show it? I mean, if it was that clear, I mean, and they came up with really good reasons why thematically it works, why it makes a lot of sense, and how it's a good ending. But if it's such a good ending, they should have made that clear. We should have seen it instead of leaving, oh, maybe it was Jaden who got shot and Chris was upset and you know, his life is ruined because he caused yet another death. And some people could say that's ironic, but I would have hated that ending, to be honest, and that's why I hate the fact that it wasn't clarified, because that means that ending that I hate is still a possibility, and it will always be. It will never be cleared up, and that annoys the ever-loving shit out of me. I mean, I can't even talk about how much that annoys me. Anyway, my rating for Smithereens out of 10 is a 7, very good. I wanted to give this episode an 8, but because of that ending, I had to drop it down to a 7. But a 7, still a good rating. It was still a good episode. As I said, the acting, the suspense, the characters were really well done. It's like just the pacing, the order of events, the way that the episode was slowly paced, and the way characters were slowly introduced when they became relevant, and the commentary it makes about how prevalent social media is in modern society and how powerful it is, and how these, Silicon Valley execs could get information quicker than the police. Like, yeah, that is good, powerful commentary, and the character study of Chris and how this had effect on his personal life and the crisis that he was going through, that was well portrayed. But there was a few kinks in it, as I already talked about, and that ending, yeah, really annoyed the hell out of me. Anyway, so that is it for my review of Smithereens. I'll be back in just a few days to finish my coverage of Season 5 of Black Mirror with my review of Rachel, Jack, and Ashley 2. So be sure to check that out. Also check out my channel, as I do many more videos on other shows like Star Trek, The Expanse, Lost, and more. So be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that. And thanks a lot for watching.